Sometimes reality is far stranger than fiction, and a prime example of this, as you may have seen in recent headlines, is Donald Trump teaming up with Dr. Oz to successfully tackle America's biggest ever health crisis. I never thought they would do it, but you can't make this shit up. I would love to be trashing this administration all day long, trust me. But unfortunately, the only thing they've done relevant to this channel is incredibly supportive and aligned. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Make America Healthy Again, spearheaded by RFK, is doing just that and getting mercury out of vaccines and dentistry. So I've ranted ad nauseum about the dangers of mercury on this channel, and this video is going to be more of that, just so you know, just a heads up. I won't be praising Trump though, because for all the mercury he's taking out of people's veins and teeth, he's putting orders of magnitude more into our air by rolling back regulations on coal plant emissions, but I digress. This should still be celebrated as a victory for public health, because it is. It's a big one. And it's all too ironic, really. I mean, clearly Trump, I don't think he cares much about people's health, but this is good for his image. The ancient Chinese invented amalgam, so maybe when he learned that this was the case, he thought, oh, we should probably legalize it, you know, if China made it. They say there's light in the darkness, and it really shows when fascists make an occasional hyper left-wing decision. But the bigoted Oompa Loompa gets enough publicity already, so I'm going to shift to the focus on amalgam. So how did anyone ever think this was a good thing to do to people, to put amalgam in their mouth? Well, as I mentioned in my previous video, how did it get this bad? Ancient Europeans, they noticed people would violently puke after ingesting mercury, so they interpreted this as mercury cleansing and purging the body of toxins. Though now we know people were just being poisoned by mercury, and it was making them violently puke. And the ancient Chinese, they also misconstrued some things. They thought ingesting mercury would transfer the qualities of immortality to them, because the metal never tarnished. But of course, we now know that the doctrine of signatures only works with biological medicines, and only sometimes at that. It's not a perfect rule. The ancient Chinese started using amalgam dental fillings 2,700 years ago, which probably coincides with when people started going absolutely bonkers. So much so that God had to send Jesus to the earth to save all our asses not too long after that. On that note, let's get scientific, right? As I've talked about in my video, invisible fillings make you fat. Mercury is among the most potent neurotoxins on Earth, if not the most, and it is the most toxic, non-radioactive element on the periodic table. It also vaporizes at room temperature, which means it off-gases from amalgam fillings constantly and heavily, and is absorbed through the lungs into the bloodstream at a rate of 80%. So I would say that it's easier to talk about what organ systems aren't affected by mercury rather than those that are. But actually that's not true, because it's actually harder to find a single part of the body that isn't toxified by systemic mercury poisoning. That's how damaging this stuff is. This is like anti-human sauce. So I'm speaking from direct experience here. Me and my whole family have been subjected to this, and chances are you and your family have been too, by the medical industries. But I've focused plenty on the harms of mercury in past videos and other toxins, so if you're curious about that, go check out those videos. And this is probably a good place to say I'm not liable for what you should choose to do with any of this information. I'm not a licensed medical practitioner, although I will probably do less harm to you than one of them will. This shouldn't be taken as medical advice or recommendations or anything like that, and yeah, this is for educational purposes only, right? So, heavy metal detox is a very complicated subject because our bodies are very complex systems. And currently lots of people are trying to chelate. They're trying to solve the problem at the same level of thinking that produced the problem, and this is a level of the pharmaceuticals and the medical industry. And this just doesn't work in practice. This is reflected in the Andy Cutler approach, the most popular protocol for heavy metal chelation. And I've reviewed tons of testimonials and feedback from people who have tried the pills he recommends, and more often than not, people's symptoms get much worse instead of better from chelators like ALA, DMSA, and DMPS. Andy Cutler was a chemist and eventually died from mercury toxicity. So this should tell you something about the efficacy of his protocol, which he practiced on himself. He talked a lot about the dangers of metal redistribution in the body from improper chelation. And ironically, this is exactly what a lot of his followers are experiencing. These chemical chelators pull metals from tissues very strongly and indiscriminately, and they each only have a half-life of a few hours, meaning they will re-release the metals that they bind into other organs of the body. And this makes people dependent on these rigorous and strict protocols, having to take tons of pills, wake up in the middle of the night to take pills, and missing a dose is potentially super dangerous. So even when people do the protocol perfectly, they get worse between rounds when they stop chelating because metals are still being moved and released. And they're told that they need to do hundreds of rounds for years on end to get better. And this is just not practical for a lot of people with the rigorous sort of protocol it is. And it just doesn't work. It's more chemical toxicity. These are pharmaceuticals, they're mass produced. Surely they can have metals in them, in the pills themselves. Like, pharmaceuticals are notoriously laced with impurities. But beyond that, it's just not natural. Our bodies are not designed to process these chemically extracted substances, and it's no wonder why people aren't getting better with this. So it's a really toxic culture in the heavy metal chelation community, in the Andy Cutler community, no pun intended, with lots of gaslighting and abusive demands. I've seen this in forums and group chats and that sort of thing. People saying, oh, well, you're just not doing it enough, or you're not doing it right. Well, maybe it's the protocol that's wrong. What this community can't seem to recognize is that plants have chelating compounds naturally that contain biological intelligence. They're much more complex than these single compound extracted chemicals. And they carry much less risks because of this. It's still important, of course, to have amalgam and any other metal sources removed from the body before attempting chelation. This is something Andy Cutler does talk about. I've read his whole book. I've looked into his research. But this is one thing he had right. You definitely need to get the amalgam out first before trying to chelate. But what he doesn't talk about is other types of implants, even tattoos. Any sources of metal in the body are very dangerous to have in while trying to chelate, because the chelation will just pull from those sources, make the problem worse, redistribute more. So it's important for anyone who wants to have their amalgam removed that they go to a biological dentist who uses a SMART protocol. This is to ensure that the person or the dentist isn't toxified by mercury, because drilling into a mercury filling is potentially really dangerous. It has to be done right. So really, I think people just need guidance. A lot of people just need guided in the right way. They need to feel safe with their protocol. They need to have a structure around what they're doing, a conceptual framework around how they're going to be going about their healing. And herbalists have just failed to provide these comprehensive protocols and real solutions for chelation based on solid evidence and data. So in the future, I'm going to make a separate video on herbal chelation. It's something I could talk about for a long time, so I can't fit into this video. But just for now, know that it's possible. It's possible to heal this damage without getting looped into dependency on Big Pharma, although it may require some extra surgeries. I've had to go through a few surgeries to undo the damage of industry. But once those surgeries are done, bodily sovereignty is reclaimed and the plants can take over from there. So like I said, tattoos are a concern. This is one of the surgeries I had. Actually, I'm right in the middle of this process of removing a tattoo that had toxic metals in its color inks. It was a multicolored tattoo, and it was medium size, so it actually had to be taken out in sections. I didn't go with laser removal because what laser tattoo removal does is just pushes those metals further into the lymphatic system, into the bloodstream, and gets redistributed around the body even more. Has to be flushed out then, and it's super dangerous. The lasers can even incinerate the metals and other toxins in the inks and convert them into more toxic compounds. So I decided to go with excision by scalpel, and I completed the first part of the surgery, although it didn't go how I wanted it to. The surgeon was not upfront about the fact that he'd be using an electric scalpel rather than a cold steel scalpel. So can't trust these surgeons either. But I found a better one. It's gonna take the rest of the tattoo off, help me with the scar that was left, the horrible scar from the electric scalpel. And after that, I will be in a position to do some heavier herbal chelation. Back to amalgam. Amalgam has been used for millennia, and I'm very grateful to be living in a time where it's becoming illegalized. I don't know if it's ever been illegal before, but Europe illegalized it very recently, and now the US. And the thing is, hundreds of millions of people still have this in their mouths. It's a serious problem. It's going to take a lot of work on a global scale to deal with this issue, to undo this damage. And another problem is the alternatives to amalgam offered by the dental industry. They're not that much better. I mean, they are better, but as I talked about in previous videos, BPA and microplastics are leached into the body from composite fillings. There's aluminum that they have to use to sinter zirconia fillings, and they have to use glass ionomer cements with fluoride in them for some of these conventional fillings. So yeah, it's really bad stuff. Like there's a lot of There's a lot of toxins hidden in this stuff. And they don't talk about it, they don't warn people of the risks and what they're actually doing to them. People just trust. It's not a consent-based system. And that's why I created this channel. Created to develop non-toxic dental restorations that are completely novel, such as flippers that are not made of plastic or metal. So for this I'm considering bioplastic mixed with nephrite and a very specific type of herbal extract which will not introduce any microbial contamination, which will actually prevent from that and preserve the bioplastic. And also a filling material, which would be a mineral dental cement made of non-toxic minerals. And also an inlay concept made from this dental cement mixed with a nephrite inlay. That's the Jade in Jade Tooth Project. Nephrite is a type of jade. In addition to this, I would love to see fully nephrite implants in the future. I think this is the most elegant solution to people who have to have teeth extracted. Flippers are cumbersome. Flippers, especially bioplastic one, is not going to last forever. The nephrite portion would, so it would have to be a replaceable bioplastic portion that would maybe last 3 to 6 years. But that requires removal every night, careful washing and soaking. It's just still doesn't give people their full quality of life back because of that maintenance that's required. It's better than nothing, and it can help preserve the jawbone and the alignment of the other teeth. But ideally, people would be able to have a tooth extracted and then have a nephrite implant, which is shaped into the shape of a tooth on the crown portion, and on the endosseous portion, which would go inside the gum, it would be a sort of dental root shaped or wedge shaped insert that would be textured for better osseointegration, so that the jawbone would accept it as a new tooth and would restore people's chewing fully and would not fracture, would not give them any toxicity, would not give them any temperature sensitivity additionally, because nephrite has a very low thermal conductivity. It's really the perfect material. It's never been done, and it's going to take immense testing and regulatory approval to ever get this kind of thing in the mainstream. But I think it's worthwhile. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do this. Might be beyond the scope of my work, but I hope that someone carries this forward if I don't get around to it in my life, because I think it's really important for people, and I don't see another way. I mean, seashells worked for the Maya people, but nephrite is even tougher. So those are some of my ideas that I would like to see completed, and ideally within my lifetime. You know, I made this whole channel originally for my fiance and I. Like, we have issues with our teeth. We've been hurt by the dental industry. We both had fillings removed and teeth extracted, and we need help. So this is coming from a need, and I know that a lot of other people have that need too. I need a team for this if I'm going to make any progress toward this. So I'm looking for a prosthodontist or a dental technician to join me, preferably a biological one or a rebellious one, someone outside the system, a former technician, or a current one in the system. You know, if you're just inspired and passionate and want to change everything you're doing with your life, then please join me and stop doing harm. to people. There's really an opportunity to make the world a better place, and I think a lot of dentists get into the field because they actually do care about people's health. And it's not an easy job. I tried to, I put a zinc eugenol filling in my fiance yesterday, and it was incredibly stressful. Oh my god. This is not easy work, going into people's mouths when they're stressed, doing interventions with sensitive teeth. Wow. I have a new appreciation for that kind of work. I could never be a dentist. I know that personally. I'm too antsy and queasy for that. But there are people who are cut out for it, so just know I appreciate you if you're a dentist. Like, I get it, I understand. But it's important that the people with those skills rebel and stop buying into the industry solutions, the products that are sold to them, and that they start questioning what they're actually doing to people's health. We need to actively develop these solutions together. The real solutions that don't hurt people, that give people their life back, give people their chewing back, prevent further damage, and don't toxify them, and don't disrupt their whole hormonal system. That's the part that's generally ignored by dentists. So, tangent aside, I'm also looking for bioplastic experts and producers, people who have experience in the patent industry, such as patent clerks or lawyers, for the creation of of several defensive publications or proofs of prior art, so that this can be accessible to everyone on Earth, so that industry can't corrupt it or co-opt it or profit unnecessarily off of it. I'd like for this to be open source and decentralized, so this can become something that people produce on a small scale. It's not that I want to take people's livings away, but if there's actual competition in the production of these things and it's not monopolized, that would really benefit the people on this planet, because this is such a transformational technology that I'm suggesting. I'm also interested in connecting with any dental CAD designers, and having access to an analytical chemistry lab, an oral microbiology lab, and a biomaterials lab could be beneficial as well, or necessary. Access to a 5-axis dental mill, an intraoral scanner, a resin printer, a microcompounder, a microinjection molder, an insertion and removal fatigue tester, a constant load creep fixture, an artificial saliva aging setup, an HPLC, a surface profilometer, and a microscope, and also a cytotoxicity and biofilm testing apparatus would really be helpful in this process. So that's kind of the direction I'm going with this. But I'm not a dentist, I'm not a medical practitioner, like I said, so I'm open to feedback. I am open to collaboration. I'm really interested in international digital collaboration with anyone who's passionate about this stuff. I would love to be starting Zoom calls and even potentially posting those Zoom calls on this channel, if appropriate. So, if you're with me, please join me. If you'd like to support this channel, then like this video, share it with your friends and family, anyone who may benefit from this information. Please comment down below with any questions, comments, concerns. Please subscribe to this channel. And please go and watch my other videos if you'd like some more context. That all will really help to boost the algorithm, get this message spread farther and wider, and stay tuned for more. Thank you for your time.